Can I welcome everyone to today's historic meeting, the first meeting of the Snowy Valleys Council, and welcome visitors and guests with us. I have the duty first up to run the mayoral election as a returning officer. Before that, I would like a motion to permit the camera crew to film the exit of the meeting with the mayoral elections. Is there someone prepared to move that? John? Seconded? Good. Cool. Okay. All those in favour? Right, declare it passed. Okay, moving on to the election of mayor. I have a nominations from Margaret Isselman and James Hayes. It being two nominations, there has to be an election. The first order of business is to decide how you would like to actually elect. You have the options of being go by preferential ballot, or by ordinary ballot, or by open voting.
And if we go closed ballot, what was the three?
Ordinary ballot, preferential ballot, or open voting. So,
yeah.
John.
Ordinary ballot.
Ordinary ballot?
That's the second one.
So is the seconder? Many. Jeff. Yeah. Yep. All those in favour? Carried. Okay. So we'll now pass out some voting forms. Where did you go? No, they only got nominations here, but no, should be. I mean, a ballot form. Anyway, look. Can we use a sheet of paper? We can use these. Yeah. So you write the two names, Margaret Isselman and James Hayes, and then you indicate the person you're voting for clearly. I'll take a tick or a cross. If you like, just put it ballot box. I think that was the reason why it was there. But
Are you about to open?
no. Donnie, can you? Is there anyone you'd like to have as a scrutineer? Just to make sure that's okay. Right, we'll count. While we're doing that, we had three nominations for deputy mayor. We have Julia Hahn, Margaret Isselman, and John Larter. So continue the same voting preference. We'll need to get some papers.
Amanda just printing them. I'll give you 1 minute.
Right.
Chairman, should we await the results of the initial ballot before voting on the...
You can if you want.
Yeah, no, we have to.
Obviously.
Okay. I'll declare that James Hayes has been elected as Mayor, the first Mayor of the Canary Valley Congregation. Congratulations, James.
You had to have some competition, James.
Well done. Well done.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good luck, you two.
So they're all in? Man, you want to take them down? Just on the side. Yeah, just.
Don't be so nervous, James.
Yeah. Yes, we do. So we have 4 votes for John Larter, 3 votes there, is it? Julia Hahn, and 2 votes for Margaret Isselman. So therefore, Margaret, you're excluded from the ballot, and we now have a vote between Julia and John.
Four votes to go. Excuse me. Yeah.
Julia Ham.
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 Yes.
Ham.
Ham.
Plain old ham.
No pickles?
No pickles.
Of course I do.
No further ballots to be lodged? Count. So the results are John Larter received five votes and Julia Ham received 4 votes. So congratulations, John. I'll now hand over the chairmanship to our new mayor, James.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for your endorsement. First on the agenda is the acknowledgement to country, and I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, and also pay my respects to elders past and present. Doing so, also I'd like to pay my respects to the former councillors and the former mayors of the Chimit Council and the Tumbarumba Council, and thank them for their efforts in securing 2 very vibrant communities, and hopefully now with the new amalgamation process we'll be able to take the Snowy Valleys Council forward, so looking forward to doing that. Do we have any apologies? Any leave of absence? No? Any declarations of pecuniary interest? No? We have no public forum. We have, moving straight into the confirmation of minutes, the previous meeting of the 24th of August 2017. So do we have a mover for that? Thanks, John. Councillor Larter, sorry. Councillor Esselman. All in favour? Is there any business arising from those minutes?
Oh, we can agenda, so we'll have to add it to the agenda.
Nothing from that? We'll move through to the extraordinary meeting of the 7th of September. A motion that the ordinary meeting of the 24th of August is resolved. Do we have a motion for that? Thanks, Margaret. Seconder? John? All in favour? Thank you. Thanks, Susan. Moving on to the extraordinary meeting. We'll mover for that. Page 10. Moving and a seconder. John? Who was it?
We just first. We moved it, we need a second.
Right.
Thank you.
Anything arising from that? Move that it's resolved. John?
Yep.
Margaret? All in favour? Okay. Do you want to just great.
Will there you any views before we get into the hearing? Sure. Yeah. Just need a motion.
Before, just asking for a motion that we break so that the media can do a little interview. But before that, can I ask a motion that the ballot papers be destroyed? Somebody happy to move? Yeah. Councillors Larder and Whistleman. All in favour? Also need now a motion that we break for a short recess. Councillor Larder, Councillor Wright, you're on the books. All in favour? Carries. We'll have 5 minutes. Thanks, John. Okay. All in favour?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Okay, the other thing I'd like to ask for is that we've got a late report here. Can somebody move that late report be concluded? Thank you, Julie. Okay. All in favour?
Julie and Mark.
Back to you.
Okay.
Which brings us to page. Adoption of policies, page 22.
On the agenda, Mr Mayor, that's got the notice of motion.
Notice of motions.
That's number 7 on the agenda.
Number 7.
No, notice of motion.
Do we have any notice of motions?
Well, there's none received in before the cut-off, so.
Mr Mayor, I sent on the an email to you, the General Manager, about a week ago about notice of motion, which I think is urgent. In other words, it can't be, it has to be dealt with today or not at all. And that is that in the event of a casual vacancy occurring within the first 18 months of the council term, when the vacancy is filled by the votes cast at the last election of that office. And with it, I put the exactly the Local Government Act, which said that casual vacancy occurs within the 18 months after the date of the election, the last ordinary election, the councils of the area. And the council has at its first meeting, which is now, of course, the ordinary election councils by resolution declare that any such casual vacancy be filled by count-voted votes cast at the last election for that office. I mean, that's an option that we can legally do. If we don't do it today, it can't be done.
Well, obviously it's an urgent motion.
Yes.
You're moving that way?
Yes.
Do you have a second for it to be an urgent motion?
Yeah, I'll second that, I think.
Yeah, we've got Councillor Larter featured there to the punch.
That's quite all right.
Any discussion on that?
Just, I'm putting out an option for the councillors, just that there is one councillor who wasn't, one candidate who wasn't elected, who I guess would be the next cab off the rank, just in case there's a casual vacancy within the first 18 months. It's one way of avoiding a by-election, which would be expensive.
Yeah. There has been some advice received this week from the Electoral Office, the Electoral Commissioner, saying that, indicating that councils can't, the regulations aren't in place to allow councils to do that. What I suggest is you go through with it, then I'll come back with some advice on the position with that. Okay?
Okay.
Because I wanted to talk to you about that.
Any other discussion? Any other comments? Put the motion. All in favour? That's the adoption that would be an urgent motion. Now I'll put the motion. And the motion is that if a vacancy occurs in the first 18 months of this council, that the next person on the list, which was the only person on the list, is duly elected. So that's the motion, Jeff, right, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Do I have a mover for that? Or you, Jeff, you're the mover. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Larter. Any discussion? All in favour? Motion is carried. Back to adoption of policies, page 22. So the recommendation is that Council adopt the following policies: the payment of expenses of the mayors and councillors, draft statement of business ethics, draft public interaction and meeting disclosure policy, and draft Snowy Valley's Code of Meeting Practice. And that the adopted policies and their associated procedures be communicated and implemented in the workplace, and that any training identified by these policies be undertaken. Anyone to move that? Councillor Larder's moving that. Councillor Smith is seconding that. Any discussion?
Sorry,
Councillor Cross.
well,
I just wanted to say that there were a couple of things in the Code of Meeting Practice that I thought needed to be looked at. One was the issue of mobile phones during meetings.
Yes.
That we should all obviously have them on silent, but that unless it's an emergency, they should not be appearing on the table.
Is that reference to somewhere in the paper?
Sorry?
Is that somewhere in the code of meeting?
No, there's nothing made mention of mobile phones in the Code of Conduct, the Code of Meeting.
I think, personally, I think as long as people got them turned off or on silent, that's fine. We've got our iPads, we can use those. Some things come in by phone that don't come by iPad, so I'm happy to have both of them. If we've got an iPad on the desk, I can't see there's much difference to the phone as long as you're not recording stuff or whatever.
There's another issue on page 11. It says that we shall stand when speaking, and I don't know that we need to have that included.
I'm happy to hear you seated.
Sorry?
I'm happy to hear from you seated. I don't need
Yes,
you.
that's what I mean.
Don't
Do we
expect you to
need,
stand.
you know, if this is our Code of Meeting
Yeah.
Practice, then do we really need to say that we have to stand?
You actually can't remove
Oh,
things, you can
okay.
only add to it. So,
Oh, okay.
but if
Sorry,
the chairman is not, if he doesn't actually control it, then
Okay.
I won't complain.
Sorry?
I won't complain.
Anything further from that?
Sorry.
Code of Meeting. Thanks very much, Councillor Cross, for that. So the recommendation is there. We have a mover and a seconder. No, we don't have a mover and a seconder. Not yet. We need a mover and a seconder.
I'll move.
Thanks, Councillor Ismail. Councillor Wright. Still not on the books yet. Councillor Cross. Keep trying. Any further comment? Put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Governance and financial reports on page
Excuse me,
24.
Mayor. Page 8 we've got, oh, it's very up to committee delegates on page 8.
No, it's okay.
Page 19, sorry. Adoption of policy. Page back from policies.
Oh, as an attachment. I've got all the attachments.
Yes.
All the meetings for
Actually, it's supposed to be there.
It's not on the agenda, but
it's missing from the agenda. We'll add it.
Just add it.
you decide.
It was sent out as part of the notice. The notices of meetings.
We will have first, however, do the governance and finance reports.
Yeah.
So the recommendation is the council receive a statement of investments of the 31st of August 2017. Any questions on any of this?
I just have a question. I see them. We've got the Commonwealth Banks and National. Well, how come there's no Bendigo Bank on there that supports our communities, all our communities?
That could be a question on notice.
It's
Yes, it's in the next page.
from the pie rate.
4%. I'd have to say a non-pecuniary interest there, actually, Bendigo, because I'm on the board of Bendigo.
All right, yeah. I don't have any.
Sorry, Mayor, could I ask, is this a compilation of Tumbarumba Insurance investment portfolios? And if
This
so,
is no Snowy Valleys.
no,
Snowy
that, so yeah, that's good. So, is there anything there that's extremely unusual from any other time? And have we got a greater investment with AMP out of proportion, or is there an issue in relation? Or the question is, do we suddenly have a greater intense investment in one particular portfolio that we would not have expected?
No, I don't believe so.
I do.
No.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Right. Might ask for a mover on that report. Councillor Larder. Seconder?
Get on the book.
Councillor Cross.
It's on the book.
Thank you. Any further questions or statements on that? Put the motion, all in favour? All in favour? Carried. Okay, I might ask that the report, or the, what are we calling it? Wait. We'll start with the late report, I think. The late report regarding the recruitment of the permanent general manager that Mr. Christensen has authored. And everyone familiar with those recommendations there?
Can I just add information? The shortlisting of applicants for the Sunset Committee will be done on the 3rd of October at Tumut, which is not in the report, so if you add that alongside it. And the first interviews will be held on the 9th and 10th of October at Tumut, with the extraordinary meeting for the final interviews to be held at Tumbarumba. And the plan was to give the candidates a look at both main centres.
So there's a recommendation there. Well, there's actually 5 recommendations.
I'll move them for the purpose of debate.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Larder moved them. Do we have a seconder?
Yep.
Councillor Larder?
I'm not sure what everyone's view on this is, but I would like to see us treat this a little bit differently in so much as every one of the councillors participates in the recruitment of the general manager as like a board. And rather than having a meeting on the 3rd, perhaps the resumes could be sent to the councillors individually, and they could review them with a view to then meeting at some point to discuss them, rather than everyone coming into a room to discuss them cold.
I think the intention of the 3rd is actually to do just that. This is the meeting to discuss and the shortlisting.
Like John said, can we see the resumes beforehand?
And it doesn't need to physically all be in the same room.
No.
No.
Yeah,
You can
but
teleconference.
Matt, do you want to cover it?
Mr. Mayor, if I can, the intent is to circulate the resumes of the individuals before that meeting. That meeting is purely to meet with the selection panel to shortlist everyone's reviews of those resumes. So they will be reported through before that meeting.
There's not a lot of time between now and the 3rd to be going through comprehensive resumes for a general manager.
If we get the selection panel set today, I'll send an email to Mark Anderson from Local Government Management Solutions and get those sent. I just needed to have the selection panel set before we forward that resume.
Yeah. Look, I'm happy to have everybody see the applications. Whether we can do that and then just have a selection panel of 5, but certainly so the other councillors have input and be able to give their impression. I'm very happy for that to happen. And then just have work with a group of, what did it say?
I think at the end of the day, anyone that wants to be part of the process
shouldn't be excluded.
So unless it was particular reason.
Everyone has to participate in the final selection. It's actually a meeting where you actually go through. The candidates are presented to you, and then you vote on your preferred candidate at that meeting, and that involves all the councillors.
So I ask a question: how many applicants are there, and how many do you anticipate being on the short list?
There was 20 applications received. The shortlisting will be at the selection panel's discretion or the whole council's discretion. Typically, you'd be trying to get it down to a manageable number, say 7, with the intent of after first round interviews getting it down to 3, maybe 4 for the second round.
Can I just suggest that I just feel as though it's a bit rushed. You know, like I don't think we're in any hurry to appoint a general manager. We've got capable hands here. Another week's not going to make any difference. I think we need to be given the resumes and look at them properly, not just glance through them. You know, I think a third's just, that's less than a week away. When you're talking 7 resumes, that's a lot of work to go through.
But there is a time frame because, David, you have to leave at the beginning of November, is that right?
No, I can go till the end of November.
The end of November.
But bearing in mind that if you make the final selection on the 30th of October, any candidate may have to resign and then the other thing is you've got Christmas coming up, whether they can actually decide make the move or not. That's going to be the personal issues you're going to have to deal with as part of that. So I think part of the problem here is that it's Mark's timetable as well, because he's recruiting other general managers in between all this too. So,
are the applicants aware of this timeline?
No, I would not think so.
No, obviously we're trying to set the timeline with the council today, and we can't advise them.
But Mark could probably email them tomorrow, so you've got them then.
So, Councillor Ludd is proposing we put it back a week. What are the implications of that?
Mr. Anderson has flagged that he will be away for a 2-week period in October. You would need to shortlist the applicants on the week following, but you wouldn't be able to have the first round interviews for another 2, maybe 3 weeks after that. So it would push back the extraordinary meeting date of the 30th back, so another 2 weeks.
So mid-November.
But his 2 weeks that he's going away is not changing, so how does that change things?
You won't be able to have the first round interviews. You'll be shortlisting, and then you'll have to provide a week's notice to the shortlisted applicants, and then they'll put it into the 2-week period of his leave.
So what day is the 3rd?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. And it's a long weekend.
It's next Tuesday.
Pretty soon.
I'm happy to go with the 3rd.
In view of the
it doesn't necessarily have to be the 3rd. You can have it 4th or 5th. I'd probably suggest you don't have it too much later if you're going to have the first round interviews the following. You want to give some notice to applicants who have to make travel arrangements.
So when are you proposing to send the resumes out to?
I'll get on to Local Government Management Solutions this afternoon after the meeting and ask them to be forwarded through.
So if we kept it at the 3rd and there was an issue, perhaps extend it. But is there any reason we have to meet? Like, why couldn't we have a telephone hookup or can't say well, like if you're going to go through their resumes at home, let's just do that if you're happy.
Happy with that, mate? Teleconference?
You can provide a checklist?
Yep, I can. I'm at the disposal of council. So if council wishes to do it that way, we'll make it work.
Okay.
Good idea.
So you're not proposing any changes to that?
Well, I won't propose any changes other than the fact that rather than meeting, we have a telephone hookup to recommend and decide who we interview, and then we go with the timetable that you've got there.
We not just email, that we've got these are 5 preferences, and then just so don't have to yarn about it, just say, this is my 5 selection, and just send that into central body, and they take it from there.
So John, did you want to change that recommendation in any way?
Well, only that it says we're meeting, and I don't see the point in meeting all day just to discuss applicants when we're already doing it at home.
Mr Mayor.
I guess.
Mr Anderson is planning on being at June regardless, so you could have a mixture of, if it was too difficult to travel with some individuals, you can have a mixture of phone, hook up and on-site meetings.
Let's leave it at that. And as far as the first interviews, the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and 2 nominated councillors, where do you want to go with that?
It's up to the council. I just don't want anyone to feel excluded from the process if they'd like to be part of it. That's just my personal view. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the General Manager is reporting to a board, and, you know, in an interview situation, it's not unreasonable, in my opinion, to have them face a board, which essentially is us. That shouldn't make them feel uncomfortable. And if it does, they probably shouldn't be doing the job.
This is the first screening interviews to get your final selection, so I think, you know, some will exclude themselves very quickly in that process. Some may, I'll tell you now, some may not even meet the selection criteria before we even get past that first period. So I think it's probably more efficient to have a group. Probably, I personally just suggestion who wants to be involved. Yeah.
I'd like to be involved too.
Okay, so then just build it around that. It doesn't have to be 2 others, it could be 3 others. Yeah. Okay.
So the interviews are going to be on the 9th and 10th. Will they take 2 days?
They got the 9th and 10th. It depends on candidate availability.
Okay.
Because, you know, they could be flying from somewhere else. And
9% my way over here, so take me off that.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we probably should have gone into committee to discuss all this, but I'm happy to let that go. But so we've got a recommendation there. We've got a move and a seconder.
You want to nominate the 2 councillors as part of that recommendation?
Sure.
Could I do that? I'll nominate if you want to.
Do you have nominees? How many? Who would like to nominate?
I'd nominate Julia and Kate, Councillor Ham and Councillor Cross as our
Gender equity then.
We have gender
as our
equality.
2 representatives for the selection sunset committee. Second that?
Seconder. Thanks, Tom. Councillor Lada.
Who are you selecting?
The selecting council.
And of course, other councillors can be involved in the process and attend when necessary.
Sorry, who's the 2 councillors against?
Cross and Ham.
The new councillors, I think we need to have one that's been on before.
Well, we've got a mayor and
Mayor and deputy.
Any further discussion?
Unless Jeff particularly wants to, you can, if you want to be part of it.
Okay, we've got the 5 recommendations there and the council representatives noted. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay. That's that. Now,
This one.
this one. This was the committees. I know I've actually torn the page out.
Me too. Can I move that we move to committee?
Yes. Well, would you like to first move that we discuss the committees and then that we move into committee?
I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second for that?
Second.
Thanks, Councillor Cross. All in favour? Okay, so the purpose of this is to go through the committees, work out which ones that we want to discuss or which ones we have delegates for, and any comments there. Certainly I've got some comments from Councillor Smith regarding the Tourism Committee, and also I received a phone call last night from somebody in the southern end of the Shire who was a bit concerned about the Tourism Committee, so let's have a look at that. So let's start from the first page, which is the 365 committees. And just before we go on, I thought there were a lot more committees than this. This is not a complete list, surely. And why are we presented with a list that's sort of...
That's the best list we've got at the moment. We're trying to find a complete list.
Certainly from the council business papers from last year. They're there. Both Tumbarumba and Tumut. So anyhow, we'll work with what we've got, and then if you could bring the other ones back to us next month.
Yeah.
So you want to do this by going through each one, asking people to be on, and then addressing what's written in the committee function as well?
I think that is that the way people are minded,
Should the committee exist?
or should the committees exist? Yes,
Yeah.
and then we'll talk to the community later. Perhaps not.
I can ask that question and disappear.
Of course you can. Adlong Showground. Now, as far as I know, the Adlong Showground Committee hasn't had a councillor on it before.
Why would it be you?
Does it need a councillor?
No, I don't believe so.
It's a Section 355 committee, which then they actually have the delegation to be council over that asset. So whether anything with the 355, the committee, my practice has been to have a councillor who has oversight, not necessarily attending, just to make sure that, because they are handling money on behalf of the council.
Mr. Mayor, can I just...
Councillor Pritchard.
I think the 355 prefix is redundant, isn't it? They're simply council committees. Is that not right?
They still have the power of, under the Act, the power of actually performing as council.
Council committees, so they should have reports and
You should get the annual report, you should get the
regular
financial
reports.
statement.
Yeah.
And they should have a constitution.
They use the council banking system.
And I think this highlights a problem that we've got with some of our committees is they don't know that.
Yeah.
And certainly the 355 committees, I don't believe, have been producing reports to council.
Yeah.
So this might be the time to write to each of those committees saying these are your liabilities as a 355 committee. So could we have that as
You can make that a recommendation.
make that a recommendation? Somebody like to make that a recommendation? Councillor Pritchard?
Can you get that, sir?
I'll just
Make-
Make it up.
I should put that council right to all section 355 committees.
Yep. Advising them on their responsibilities to council, liabilities to council, what would you call it?
No, responsibility.
Responsibilities?
To report to council.
Yeah.
Do we
And
need
operation?
It comes down to an annual report and an audited financial report.
And constitution?
Constitution.
Yep.
And to advise them who will be their nominated council representative.
Should they require one?
I think it's good practice to have someone who is delegated to,
just, they don't necessarily attend the meetings, but they're
yeah, just as
as a reference?
yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Lara?
I was going to say, just maybe we need to also, in that right to them, give them a template of how to do it, what's required, rather than just...
I anticipate this will create merry hell, but it hasn't every time we've been through this, but yes.
And when are they due? Like, is it on the 30th of June, the audited statement?
End of their financial year.
End of the financial year.
Theirs.
So, their financial
Could be different. You know, could be March, could be June, could be...
Susan, can we add that they're provided with a template or a scaffold to fill in?
Yeah.
And that way we'll have the same sort of report from everybody.
And James, something else that came up is some council members attend 355 committees, which may be a waste of some people's time with some of those committees. So is there any way we can find out which council members
Who attends each, the list. Maybe come back at the next, when they're all supplied.
Exactly.
So that was moved by Councillor Pritchard, believe. That's your motion. Do we have a second? Councillor Risselman,
It's just a long name to write all the time.
Say everything in it that you'd like for it to say.
I think so. Is everyone happy with it? Put the motion, all in favour? All right, let's move back to the Adlong Showground. It's a great place. Who'd like to As I said, there hasn't been a councillor on this committee before.
It would make sense that you and Adelong, that you should be the one they report to, is that? Not necessarily
overseas.
the-
You don't have to do that.
They won't report to me.
The bad news is the mayor's a member of every committee.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
I'm happy to go on that committee.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel that we need to wait until that letter goes out and these committees have some time to generate what is required of them, and then be recognised as to who the council representative is, if that's what we're going to be called. I just think we can't sort of dump in on them and say, when's your next meeting kind of thing. I think that'd be a bit unfortunate. I think we need to wait.
In fact, I happened on the last Adelong Showground Committee meeting because I was in the hotel at the same time. But yeah, it's a fairly small group, select group. Councillor Lada.
I was just going to ask if we could also maybe get an oversight of whether a council staff member attends any of these meetings as well, so that we can make the delineation as to whether we need to attend it or not need to attend it.
Okay, so Councillor Risman to that one. I'm conscious of time. I don't want to take up too much time with this, but I know it was one of the things that kept coming up, especially in the southern end. So I think we need to address it.
So we're still in committee.
Development League.
Yeah, just in relation to the Development League, if I may, Mr Mayor, the dot point 3 and 4, Youth Recreation Skate Park and Battler Youth Advancement League, those two elements of that particular group don't operate any longer. So I'm just suggesting that needs to be aware of, just to keeping our records clear.
And certainly if they're reporting to council every year, council would be aware of that.
Yeah. Yes.
Councillor?
Margaret.
Pardon?
Call? Margaret or Call? One of
Yes,
I'd be happy for Call to be on that.
Camp Hudson Committee, they don't have a delegate. Do they need it? No.
Oh, actually, it's just...
John? Councillor Lada? Christmas enchantment. No delegate.
Oh, good.
Shimmick Community Transport, no delegate. They operate perfectly well, I've seen, without.
We just need a delegate.
Okay. Festival of the Falling Leaf.
Who did you get as a delegate on?
No, that doesn't actually.
John.
Part of the proposal for the tourism committee would be to include that in the tourism committee.
Be a very busy job, the tourism person. Festival of the Falling Leaf. Do we want to put somebody down there just for the in the interim? Okay. There's more than one leaf falls in Tumut too.
Yes. They do.
Glenroy Heritage Reserve Committee.
Yep.
Julia. Cancoban Community Committee with subcommittees, Cancoban Op-Shop Committee, or Committee KUVA.
I'm happy to go on that even though I'm quite happy to do that.
Councillor Risselman.
Sorry?
I said I'm happy to do that.
Oh, good.
So do we have alternate delegates? Yep, alternate delegate is Councillor Ham. Montreal Community Theatre.
Yep, I'll have a try.
Alternate? Anyone? Councillor Lada. Mountain Land Care Committee Tumbarumba.
Yep.
Thought so.
Thank you.
Councillor Ham. Rosewood Community Shed Committee. No delegate. Councillor Smith. Child Bingo Progress and Ratepayers Association.
I'll do that.
Councillor Risselman. Toomer Recreation Reserve Committee. Bruce, you interested in that? Councillor Wright for Toomer. Tumberfest. Councillor Ham. Tumbarumba Airfield Committee.
Oh, yeah, I'll do that. Sounds like a hard job.
Councillor Wright. Tumbarumba Friends of the Library.
I'll do
Councillor Ham.
Unless you want to do a call.
I'm quite happy to do it.
Yep. Exactly. We ask. Tumbarumba Historical Society.
that. I'll do that one.
Councillor Wright. Tumbarumba Men's Shed,
I'll do that one too if you want.
because you're a man.
Let them old, please.
Man.
Not as old as four, but I'm...
Includes a shed.
Thank you very much for that. Tumbarumba RSL Memorial Hall Management Committee.
I'll go on that one too if you like.
You're going to be a busy man. Which brings us to the Tumba Trek Committee, which might be a nice segue into the Tourism Committee proposal. Councillor Smith, would you like to elaborate on what you've...
Yes, I'm just looking for what I had given you earlier. I don't seem to have a copy of it.
Nor do we.
Would you like me to read it?
Thank you.
Well, nor do we.
Tourism Committee proposal that a committee be formed to coordinate, promote, encourage and liaise with tourism operators, council staff, interested stakeholders and regional committees such as BDL, Adelon Committee, Cancoban Committee, Talbingo Committee, Rosewood Committee, Tumberfest, Falling Leaf, Ciderfest, Apple Blossom, etc. And that all tourism operators and interested members of our communities be invited to be part of this committee. That 2 elected councillors be delegated to this committee plus an appropriate staff officer. That the committee to meet monthly in various locations around the Shire, with its main functions being to identify and develop new tourism opportunities within our Shire, to investigate funding grants and investment opportunities to attract new and exciting ventures to our Shire or council, to encourage, assist and coordinate existing tourism events, festivals and initiatives, to assist tourism operators with developing and growing their ventures. And the notes below are that almost all councillors emphasise the importance of tourism to our Shire in their election campaigns. An effective tourism committee will provide for a cohesive and positive framework to enhance the efforts of many businesses involved in H2 tourism in one way or another and create confidence for new businesses to give it a go.
First question, does it need to be section 355? It's not ending money, so...
Does it need to be a 355 or does it need to be
Council
an advisory committee?
It was an advisory committee before.
Needs to be a council committee.
Do you think?
Definitely not a 355.
Can I just say that during the LRC and the administrator's time, there was a tourism group that was working, and they did a lot of work with up close Snowy Valleys, and there's quite a lot of work that's been going on.
Already done. And I would encourage the group who is formed to get in contact with people who are on that LRC group and see if they wanted to form the core of it, because it's a really basic step.
Given this was so important in the campaign and so many people spoke about it, would it be worthwhile leaving this in abeyance and having a report come back to council on it?
Yeah. Because there's a couple of decisions you need to make. Will it have a budget?
Yep.
And if not, okay. But if you have a budget in terms of spreading it out, in terms of festivals and events and stuff, the committee takes control of that budget.
There's the other alternative too, how much the ComDev team would be involved in it as well.
Which would be part of the report.
Yeah, we'll provide resources anyway, because through our staff resources.
So
We're in camp committee at the moment, and we're
I'd be happy to see how
We
they
can't.
got a
We
report.
shouldn't really have a motion in it.
No, you can be treated as a recommendation for the moment. Because then you come out of committee, we're going to have to go through each of the motions. Yeah.
So would you like to make that
recommendation.
recommendation?
Yep. Recommendation is that a report be brought to the next council meeting in relation to establishing a tourism committee,
Encompassing
various other
355 and
committees.
existing committees.
Yep.
Can I just make a suggestion?
Councillor Pritchard.
It's going to be a major economic driver, that's for sure. I was questioning whether we should have a specific subcommittee of that tourism committee, the Tumbarumba Rosewood Rail Trail Committee, and another one is the Human Hobble Walking Track Subcommittee, Because I think they're two major items that should be addressed. They can be included in the report.
Considered in the report?
I think it'd be, I'd also suggest you consider things like the Falling Leaf Festival, the Christmas Entombment, all those sorts of
Get a
things.
list of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bring it down. Yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing I think we need to check is whether they actually have a budget, they actually collect funds or anything, because they may not be necessary to be 351.
Councillor Ham.
I just need clarification. I don't understand what an advisory committee is compared to, like, what makes an advisory committee? Was with the advisory committees there was the Tumbarumba Shire Tourism Advisory Committee. So what makes that different from the committees we're talking about at the moment?
That's a degree of independence. The advisory committee is an advisory group to the council. So you can elect to have an advisory group to look at matters of, say, tourism, and advise the council on the recommendations they need
There's
to
no
consider.
money, there's no constitution.
No, there's no constitution.
And then what's it? And the committees of council?
Committees of council, things like your finance committee, your infrastructure, audit committee. Yeah,
They're required.
They're required.
Alright, so my
Clarification on
motion.
that last motion.
Yep. It's a recommendation.
Yeah.
It doesn't become a motion until we move out.
We're in committee, so.
Because I have no information.
On the formation of a tourism committee.
Tourism advisory committee. Or tourism committee.
Because it could be advisory committee, anything.
Seems to make sense for it to be a 355 committee with some clout, as it were.
I can't.
I think the report.
You have the option of providing a budget for them to administer on your behalf. Right? Some councils are happy to do that. Some councils want to control the money.
Leave it up to the report to come back and see what they say.
So, yeah.
And I'll,
We need a seconder.
that's a recommendation.
And a seconder for that, yeah.
Doesn't matter.
I'll take.
And we'll leave it now till you vote later.
Okay, moving on to the Tumbarumba Musicians and Dramatic Arts Group.
So you don't have anybody
No,
on
we still
Tumbarumba?
need delegates for the Tumba Trek.
Because that's coming up fairly soon, isn't it?
The Tumba Trek. Okay, sure, delegates for that. That will all. I think that will all come out in the.
But we need to be organised.
Yeah, we need to be organised.
For Feb.
So who wants the
I'll
Tumba
go
Trek?
to Julia Hobbs too.
I'm interested in joining that one because we're looking
Yeah,
at
why not?
that low thing.
Yeah.
So we've got Councillor Wright, Councillor Ham, and Councillor
And that's for the
Tumba Trek.
Yeah.
And then the musical people.
I'll go on that.
Thank you, Councillor Ham. Aboriginal Liaison Committee. Councillor Pritchard.
Not as chairperson.
Sorry?
I don't think it should be nominated as a chairperson, it's up to the committee to appoint.
Yeah, I think it's up to the committee to appoint the chair as well. Exactly. Adelong Falls.
I'm happy to continue the history.
Councillor Cross. Australia Day Committee.
Yeah.
Is there one, will there be one from Tumbarumba or mine?
Look, I think that would make sense, having one from both ends. Yep.
Yeah.
So, Councillor Benjamin and Councillor Wright. Friends of the Wetlands. Councillor Pritchard. Snowy Valley Council's Intern and Audit Committee.
Two councils.
Might be ex officio on there.
Issue.
And deputy?
Yeah. Two. Mayor and Deputy? Okay. Mayor and Deputy. Local Environmental Plan Steering Committee.
Councillor Whistleman,
I'll go back to
Councillor Bitt.
Councillor Benjamin. Okay, here's the rush. Third Age Committee.
there's a recommendation here to move it into something else, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. They move into a welfare committee.
And the welfare committee is somewhere else.
Yeah. And that would make perfect sense. Yeah.
Which means?
That it should be combined with the other committees that look at the welfare of
So we take that
community.
recommendation and then put it in.
So do you want to take that as a recommendation? Do you want to move? That's what Kate's moving that one. Do you have a seconder?
What was the other committee?
Into the welfare committee.
Okay. So Councillor Lada is the seconder on this.
Okay.
The only problem is there's no listing for a welfare committee.
I think that was a recommendation that it be established.
I'll be established.
As a
Oh, I
welfare
see.
to encompass all the other committees.
Oh, there it is.
Balls, is
No,
there?
page 31.
Okay.
Tumbarumba Community Welfare Committee.
Yeah.
So, recommendation. Okay, Aerodrome Committee. Councillor Lada. Railway Station Precinct Committee. Councillor Pritchard.
I have an interest in that one. I'm a member of the Student Focus group, which is based on that committee, but not on the board, not on the committee.
I can't see that as an impediment.
It's not pecuniary interest.
Something else.
Declared. So we need to note that Councillor Pritchard declared a non-pecuniary interest.
Sports Committee.
I'll do that.
These are not 355 committees,
No. Saliards Committee. Some committee. Councillor Lada. Okay, Youth Council, Chim at Tumbarumba.
Yeah, I'm interested in that one.
And then,
So, do we have someone from the Chim end?
yeah, I'll do it. Oh,
We've
council.
got-
Oh,
okay.
We haven't liked.
So someone from the southern end
Well,
as well?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Should we be, no, because I'd like, yeah, if you do that,
Right.
because I'd like to, just, can that segue into the fact that we used to have a Children's Services Committee and that seems to have dropped off and I'd like that reinstated.
I'm sure it's possibly still exists, it just hasn't been included, that's what I'm thinking. But if we can make a note of that for the,
If you could make
for
that,
the
and I'm
report.
happy to be on that.
So,
You can just put the recommendation in as part of yours.
Yeah, that'd be great.
so Councillor Cross and Councillor Ham for the,
what, isn't Councillor Benjamin?
And
do
me.
you want to go as an alternate?
There was myself as well.
And Councillor Easton?
As an alternate? Two alternates.
We can both be on it, can't we?
Yes, you can. General Manager Review Committee,
Yep, I'd like to know that.
3 councillors.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 hands up already.
Oh,
I've got Councillor Cross, Councillor Benjamin and Councillor Wright. Page 30.
Sorry, Kay, could I go back to the Snowy Valley Council Internal Audit Committee, and there's 2 councillors, but you're already on it, council. You're already on it. So just wondering, we've got the mayor and the deputy on that. Just wondering if we had another council on that.
Which
So
one was
page 26. The Internal Audit Committee.
Yep.
Sure, you'd like to go there as well?
Yep. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Ham. Righto, moving down. Page 31.
Yeah, I'd like to be on interagency.
Interagency.
Okay.
Councillor Cross. And okay. And we'll all be advised when they meet, these ones, they will be on the meeting calendar. Community Strengthening Grants Assessment Panel. Do we need just a grants committee, maybe?
Yes, yes.
Can we have a similar report as well on grants in the same vein as the one previous? Formulated, because there seems to be what is there?
Well, over the page, on page 32, there's a Community Grants Committee, Tumbarumba.
Yeah.
And then down below on page 36, there is Hind Community Trust Board, and it seems to be represented on both of them, so I'm not sure what's...
Hind board one's quite a separate one.
Yeah.
Then the trust?
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
Hind Trust is a separate trust. Yeah.
Hind community trust is quite separate.
Right, okay, thank you.
So do you want to allocate councillors to these grants, or do you want to wait till they
Wait for the report.
wait for the report? Wait for the report. So we might leave those next three in abeyance and move on to the Tumbarumba Community Welfare Committee.
This is what Kate was talking about with the welfare committee that was
Yes.
back here.
Yes, so combine that
Combine
with third age and whatever else is.
Okay. And who's going to be the delegate?
You need northern and southern.
Yeah, probably do need northern and southern, don't you really?
Two councillors,
I don't know, I'll go ahead.
Councillor Cross and
Okay.
Councillor Ham. Tumbarumba Showground Planning Working Group.
I'll go for that.
So that's being amalgamated into the Showground Welfare Committee, is it?
The showground.
No, the Tumbarumba Community Welfare.
Yes. Third age and so we're up to the showground. Tumbarumba. Chris, Councillor Wright. Nearly there. Not really. Alliance of Councillors and Shire of the Upper Mount Murray. Councillor Wright, Councillor Ham, who wants this one?
Oh, you will go for that. Sounds like a bit of fun, doesn't it?
Whitewater after.
Only have a meeting once every 6 months, we'll be right.
Anzac Centenary Committee Chairman.
I'll do that.
Good. No, we've still got 60,000 we have to do.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
30th September 2018. Community Grants Committee, so leave that one for the grants?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joint Regional Planning Panels?
I've been on it for years, it's never met.
Do you want to stay on that?
It'll be replaced by these JOs anyway.
Yes.
So you're putting your hand up for that again? Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Local Emergency Management Committee, Councillor Lard, are you interested in that one? I think it's got you all over it. Thank
Just
you.
wondering why, even on the back page there on page 34, why even bushfire and all those sort of things can't be encompassed into the one thing.
Yeah, good idea.
Actually, I'm wondering why we have a councillor on the LEMC. Because
I don't know.
I go anyway, so.
Yeah, no, you're part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'll
think
just leave it there.
you're the walk-up staff for that.
Yeah. Because it's an interesting thing because I don't think the makeup actually includes it in there.
Yeah, it's a non-voting.
Yeah.
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 Keep it approximately the committee meets.
Okay. The Correctional Centre Community Consultant Committee.
I'll go on that one.
I'll go on that one.
Just a question on the community consultative committees. Are these registered with the Department of Planning or are these just ad hoc community consultative committees?
That one's more of an ad hoc one.
Do they, you know, you've read those Department of Planning rules now, they're quite stringent.
Yeah, it probably needs
To be a new name?
Yeah, yeah, I'll take that.
Either that or they sign up with the Department of Planning. So, yeah. Councillor.
Can I just ask a question of the General Manager as to when the councillor does or doesn't have voting rights on these committees and what the rule is on that? Because I just perceive that, say for instance, if I'm on the Aerodrome Committee, which I am now,
Yeah.
and I partake in discussion and vote on something, and then that comes to council, it almost seems to me that that's a conflict of interest that I'm voting on it a second time.
No, that's all right.
And
Because you're appointed as a member of the committee, you have the voting rights at the committee, then here you're a councillor. Different role. Actually, all you're doing is considering recommendations that come back from that committee to the council. So, you know, there might be a dozen things on the minutes of the Tumbarumba Aerodrome, but if there's something that has to come back for council ratification, you're only considering that one thing.
So,
But if you have an interest in that thing, then you have to declare it. But generally, no, there's no conflict with being part of that. So you can be members of a committee, you can be members of a club, you can be members of all that, right? Only if you are on the board and you have an exercising a financial decision-making thing, then you would have a pecuniary interest in it.
So when do we or don't we have voting rights on the committee?
Well, you're appointed by the council, so you do have a voting right.
Right.
Yeah.
just some of the
If they do it. It depends on their constitution.
Depends on their constitution. Just
Yeah.
check the constitutions and that may need to be changed because some constitutions say that the council delegate and the councillor on it do not have voting
So
rights.
should we perhaps ask for a copy of their constitution as well when we write them?
I'm thinking what I'm hearing is probably good practice for us to ask for all that.
Yes.
And an example of what you're talking is the last one, which is the Tumbarumba Region Visitor Centre, which is definitely a non-voting.
Let's move on to Murray-Darling. Why we remember that? Because
I think it's irrelevant. There's no point.
No point.
Don't exist anymore, does it?
No, it still exists. We know they've got the conference coming up in 2 weeks' time.
where's it?
Oh, the one in Albury.
Renmark.
Renmark.
We're just the catchment area as far as they're concerned.
It's music to my ears hearing Southerners say that.
How do you want to move on that?
I move that we stop paying them anything. I complete waste of cash. I mean, we're probably paying an exorbitant fee to be a member of it, are we?
Don't
I
know.
don't think it is exorbitant, but if you don't feel you should be a membership, you're just basically saying withdraw from membership.
I move that, recommend that.
Do you want to put that as a notice of motion for the next meeting?
Well, maybe we'll get some more
Can we
information
some
on it.
information? We don't know what.
Yeah. I'd like some more information on that before we...
But
Yes.
it comes to the next meeting, then you can...
Yeah.
That gives them a chance to.
I'll get a report of that.
REROC Code of Conduct Reviewers. What's this?
No.
Move on. Softwoods Working Group.
I'd like to go on that.
That's just panels.
Yeah, so that's why REROC. Yeah, you got to remember a REROC to do the panel.
Councillor Wright for Softwoods. River and REROC. Mayor and the General Manager. It's pretty simple. But should anyone want to come along as an observer,
Yeah,
let me know. And you know, I'm not going to take a car for, but certainly happy to take an observer at times. Bushfire Management Committee.
Yeah, I'm willing to go.
Councillor Smith. Riverina Highlands Zone Rural Fire Service Liaison Committee.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, so wouldn't it be the same?
It's much the same, so it'd be better with the same delegate.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Maybe
Reverend
the
Reid.
alternate for that, please.
Okay. Councillor Hammer's the alternate for that. Regional Library Service Committee.
Yep.
Councillor Cross. Reverend Murray Regional Weeds Committee.
If they come and do my garden, I'll go on.
No, it's okay.
They won't.
I'll probably do it.
Councillor Hammer. Thank you very much for that. RMS Consultative Committee.
I'm favourable of it.
We've got Councillor Wright down the end.
Yeah, that's
and
fine. I'll be a delegate.
Councillor Wright.
So,
Councillor Wright for RMS.
okay.
Southwest Regional Waste Management Group. Thank you.
Actually-
Councillor Lada. Traffic Committee.
I'd like to be on the
Yeah, I'd like to be on that too, if I'm interested in that.
Do we have two councils on? Oh, one for
Yes.
this and one for that. Yeah, and then there's also two representatives from the local members, I guess, as well.
Yeah, it would be if there's two electorates.
Okay.
So who's got me?
Councillor Isselman,
Bruce.
Councillor Wright.
Myra.
Okay. Busy Community Consultative Committee.
That's got you.
Pine Community Trust Board.
Yeah, I'd like to be on that.
Okay. Thank you, Bruce. Floodplain Risk Management Committee. How long?
I'll have it on.
Councillor Love. Tumut Region Visitor Centre Advisory Committee.
I'm a volunteer down there, and I've been on that in the past, so I put my hand up.
So you're declaring a
Wouldn't
non-pecuniary
that
interest.
be something under the report for the tourism?
Tourism, yeah.
No, it's a separate thing.
No, it's a separate thing.
It's a visitor centre one, yeah. But it will, the tourism will encompass parts of it, yeah. So Councillor Crusoe, thanks. Anyone else?
We have a motion to go out of committee.
Thank you very much. Yeah, before we do.
Now we're a combined council. There are a couple of major industries in our area, whether we should have some formal connection with them, I'm not sure. I'm just put it under consideration. For example, Snowy Hydro is doing this big development, and whether we should, I think, it would be remiss if we didn't make some formal connection with Snowy Hydro. I don't know, because they'll have a big impact on this area.
Yep.
We hear things through the back door, what's happening, but we really don't know. And the other one is the Busy project. Busy. Some people know that Busy used to get $100,000 a year to Tumut for charitable purposes, and that was split up into different groups. And a few years ago, Busy came back and said, well, rather than put $100,000 a year up, we'll accumulate it up to $1 million.
Yeah.
And at the same time, look to the state government to
Oh, yeah, they're all,
yeah,
yeah.
to put $1 million each in as well to get a substantial amount of money. And there was a period of movement on this, but we were never told what it was. So somehow or other we have to get some formal connection with that. How we go about it, I'm not sure.
I think with the Busy setup, we're probably best to talk to the Pratt Foundation and invite Ian Allen from the Pratt Foundation to come and talk to us. I think he's off to Beersheba.
Yeah,
So
okay.
he's the man.
I tried to nail him down at the opening of the second stage, but he kept walking away. Yeah.
So I think that's the answer. So we need to write to him. Anything further before we go to committee?
Thank you.
For next week, I'm attending an advisory meeting. I think you got an invitation there, with Snowy Hydro, just to talk about the liaison they're going to implement for the Snowy Hydro too. So we'll know a bit more about that after that meeting.
Just about Busy business, I mean, they are talking, there are rumours about what their future plans are. At the Busy opening, Mr. Pratt said that they're going to spend $2 billion or something, some extraordinary amount of money in Australia. And he didn't say on what. And I'm just quite concerned about their future plans for this area. I think we need to make some form of connection with them.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Nothing more. Councillor Wesselman, you have a...
Move out of committee, please.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Martin.
Okay. Now, I'm supposed to read all these recommendations to you.
Oh,
So, if you're kind, you can say you're taking as read. But, and you can just deal with them as a block, but the recommendations made committee big.
Thank you for reading those to us. Everybody?
Move the recommendation. Move to
Can I just make a modification? It says recommendation that the Tumba Children's Committee be established. I'd like that to be a Snorri Valleys Council Children's Committee. Kate, would you support that?
Yeah.
We need that across the whole
yeah,
council.
absolutely. Yeah. Because we've got so many differences with
Absolutely.
with council, your old.
And so
council.
these
And
become
whatever,
1, 2,
yeah.
3, 4, 5 as part of the whole
Right.
recommendation.
And you and Kate, is it, or just,
Beg your pardon.
just you, is it?
Well, at the moment, it's just the ghost staff.
Right, yeah.
That would incorporate other towns as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a resolution, right?
Well, it become resolved that, and then it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah. I'm with that.
And the first one, the council resolution.
Yeah, that's included.
So do you want to move it?
Recommendation as well.
Yeah.
Recommendations are read, move to be resolved.
Yeah. So, well, we'll tidy this up later. 'Cause you-
Yes.
Instead of waiting for
Right.
everything, but just
So
resolve.
Thank you. Thank you. We have 5, sorry, Mr. Acting Interim General Manager. We have 5 recommendations there. Would somebody, we can move them as a block.
Move them as a
Councillor
block.
Ham,
Second.
seconded. Councillor Risselman, any discussion? No discussion, I'll put the motion, all in favour? Carried. Okay, right. Put that aside now. Thank you for your
Excuse me, can I have one question, please? Mr Mayor, do we have a recommendation or a request to seek out those committees that aren't represented as yet?
yes, that was.
We've got a, okay.
Okay, which takes us to the minutes of the committee meetings.
Yep.
Got the recommendations there, the Aerodrome Committee meeting.
It's not a committee, that we're in forum.
Someone moved that that report be noted.
No.
Councillor Risselman and Councillor Ham. There's no quorum. Minutes of the Local Traffic Committee. Recommendations there. Councillor Lata. Councillor Ham. We'll go through them individually. That's the meeting minutes be accepted. And the recommendations.
Move that 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4 and 4.5, 4.6 be accepted.
Sorry, are we talking about the traffic?
Traffic, yeah.
Yes, I have a matter to mention in relation to number 4.2.
Okay, well, let's move 4.1 and get it out of the way, and then move on. We're moving 4.1. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Lata. Any discussion on 4.1? All in favour? Carried. 4.2.
Yes,
Councillor Smitty, you moving that?
I'm sorry, no, I'd like to comment on it.
We can't comment until it's moved, sorry.
Sorry, okay, go ahead.
Well, you can move it for discussion.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Lata. Okay, Councillor Smith.
Right. Having sold that property to the current owner, Rosalind Stanley, I'm very familiar with this. Not a conflict of interest, I don't think, is it?
It
Used to
depends.
own it, that's all.
Let's go tread carefully.
I have.
The word sold rings alarm bells.
I have considerable knowledge of that area, and I think that the recommendation should reflect that there is a lot more reason to limit or to extend the speed limit than what has been mentioned here. There are currently, in that section of road, 2 roads entering into the highway or the main road, plus 3 driveways. So I think that should be considered. It's also at the bottom of a very steep downward hill, and there are also problems with wild brumbies. There's an unfenced section of road. During my time there were quite a number of brumbies killed during the night, particularly, and I believe there's been more since. So it is quite dangerous for traffic in that particular stretch of road, and a reduction in speed limit would be wise, I think.
Yep. Okay, can I advise you that this is a traffic committee, which is a statutory state committee. The option you have is not to accept the recommendation, and is being basically is referred back to the district traffic committee for consideration.
But the recommendation is that they're not accepting it. They're
No,
not accepting it, so
yeah.
So it's
I think
it's nothing's happening.
Yeah.
They're not accepting the extension, so they're not extending the speed zone. So
We can't advise them further about these matters?
no, you'd have to write to the traffic committee. Yeah. I would think.
yes.
Yeah.
So there is a set formula and considerations they make. They go through to actually look at extending speed zones.
It's difficult. So the recommendation is that they don't proceed. They don't do anything. So do we have so we've got a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion? Put the motion. All in favour? Hang on, just have a little division here. All in favour? Okay, carried. Councillor Risselman, are you moving 4.3 to 4.6?
I will.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Larder. Any discussion on any of those? Put the motion. All in favour? Carried. Another one. The minutes of the local company committee held on the 17th of August. Can we move those minutes?
Same one.
Same one?
Same one.
Yes.
They're the same, they've just been double printed.
Matt, could you explain?
I think the recommendation should have come at the back of that, should it?
How big are those
What they're doing is...
That's an attachment to the
Yeah.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
Sorry, yes.
So,
Move about
confidential,
mental
yes.
health.
before we move, sorry, Councillor Ham.
No, only if I just needed some explanation. I don't understand one of the concepts.
Which was?
The heavy vehicle parking in the parade in Tumbarumba. What does that actually mean? Like, how big are you? How big is the heavy vehicle parking?
Mr. Christensen?
The question is about the size of the vehicles.
Well, when you say heavy vehicle, are we talking about the log trucks?
Yeah, we're talking up to 20 metres.
Okay, and you're saying that's fine if they park in the parade?
Yes, at that location.
Oh, right.
It's not
Sorry.
in a shopping centre.
No, sorry, I didn't understand it. Which location?
It's in between, excuse me, I'm not familiar with the roads, but it's in front of the...
It's between Belmont Street and Water Street.
Oh, fine. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
I just took the parade just as the street. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt.
Thank you, Councillor. Look, thanks very much for bearing with me today. Before we move into confidential, I'd just like to give everybody an opportunity, just if we can go around the table just briefly to, if you've got any short statements to make, I'd be happy to take those.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm just wanting to clarify the term of the Mayor's position to be appointed as of this morning.
2 years.
It's 2 years?
Yes.
So the following year?
1.
1. Okay, so that's fine. Thank you very much. That's all I needed. Thank you so much for it.
Thank you. Councillor Cross. Councillor Pritchard?
I just commend all concerned for such a productive and cooperative and inclusive meeting we've had today. It's it's got great potential for the future, and congratulations to you all.
Thank you, Councillor. Appreciate it. Councillor Smith.
Yes, I'd like to congratulate the Mayor on the way that the meeting has been conducted. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to make a note to congratulate former Councillor Audrey Mackenzie, who was the person who missed out amongst us all, and wish her every success and thank her for her commitment to local government over many years.
Thank you.
I don't know.
You want to?
And I have to agree the meeting went very well, but I suppose segueing on your thing, is this the time we bring up that we should be thanking past councillors from their old shires?
Absolutely.
Yes, so we can have some motion that, do we do some function that specifically is just to thank them and for their volunteer hours and what they've done?
I think something along the lines that we investigate ways to suitably thank the previous councillors, because I certainly know when we were sacked, we didn't get a letter.
No,
we just got come in and hand your iPad, laptop over and see you later, mate. So I think this needs to be something done.
The Chancellor used to give a certificate out for the years of service, and perhaps we should get that done in a ceremony.
Yeah.
So would you like that as a motion? That
Oh,
we
absolutely. Yeah.
officially recognise.
Would
We have a vote.
Could you read that, please, and then let me know if you're happy with that, please?
Thanks.
Seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Wright. All in favour? Carried. Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Benjamin.
Just like to congratulate Mr Mayor and Deputy Mayor, and also to thank Audrey Mackenzie as well for all of her service she's done for the former council. I do agree with Julia, we should definitely do something for the former councillors, 110%.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to say thank you very much for helping me along and for your commitment. I think the major thing that we've got to work towards is unity and work as a team. I don't think it's a time for narcissism. I think it's a time for working as a group and govern responsibly and make quality, decisive decisions. I'd like to thank Paul Sullivan and the executive team and also former councillors and Mayors Chaffey and Bolger for their time. This merger gives us an opportunity to embrace opportunity as it arises and to listen to the community, understand and promote the interests of all its citizens and stakeholders. And to me, our goal should be, as councillors, to make timely and transparent decisions based on merit and in the best interests of our community. So if we can do that and we can keep thinking back to that and think of how we'd like to be treated as well, I think we can be a very effective council.
Yeah.
We have a motion to move into, what do we call it now? Confidential?
Yep.
Confidential.
Move the
Councillor Risselman?
Yep.
Councillor, and thank you very much, everybody.
Good to go.
Good to go?
Yeah.
Okay, Council in Committee of the Whole resolved that the Council, 1, note the report on tenders received for Wandalga Road embankment stabilisation and reconstruction. 2, accept the tender submitted by PCA for $461,165 GST exclusive for the Wandalga Road embankment stabilisation and reconstruction project. 3, authorise the General Manager to negotiate alternative options for treatments for project improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Interim General Manager.
Must be that correct.
And that's the end of the meeting. Next meeting will be
It's the extraordinary.
next ordinary meeting.
Which is where all the businesses are going to come through.
Be the 9th and 10th of the interviews, I suppose, depending on what
Okay. Thank you. We'll see you all then, and thank you for your attendance today.
Hey.